Hollywood is killing the film industry as we know it. The idea of sequels are no longer special based on the fact that there are simply too many of them nowadays. Why does Hollywood so heavily rely on the same concepts and intellectual properties that have already been made and explored? The whole point of a sequel is to intentionally add on to something that wasn't done being told. There are so many sequels made these days that have no purpose and actual meaning behind them. You may be thinking, well, that's what sequels are for, to add on to something. But if there's no real heart, then why waste your money and time to watch something meaningless and empty? So let's get into why this is such a problem and how the film industry is dying because of sequels. In recent years, there has been an overabundance of sequels and reboots. I'll explain the reboot problem later. When another sequel is in production, many fans tend to criticize it right away, and this causes almost immediate bad expectations of the movie. Now, why would people automatically hate on the film? This is either because the film didn't need to be expanded on, or it's something people didn't want. For example, Toy Story 4. People were shocked to find out that there was going to be a fourth installment when the story of Toy Story was already concluded. Fans thought, wow, the third film was a perfect ending to the trilogy. I'm so happy it was written so well. And it seemed like the writers actually cared about it. Even I myself thought it was a good ending. Despite the hate about Toy Story 4, it still made $1 billion. And that's because people were interested in it. But it still got lots of criticism. You might be thinking, well, that goes against your argument, Gia. The movie made $1 billion. Clearly, people wanted to see it. Actually, this helps my argument because whether you realize it or not, that's the whole point. They made another sequel because they knew it would make $1 billion. It's a trap. They knew you'd want to see the movie. The whole point of all of this is to make more money. Huge corporations like Disney, and actually that's the only one with the sequel problem, and that's because Disney owns basically everything. Disney is desperate to make money at any chance they get, so they will ruin an already finished trilogy like Toy Story to make more money. Now here's where I can fit in the reboot problem, because Disney makes all the reboots. For those that don't know what a reboot is, it's when a movie is recreated but in live action, and reboots are made to make easy money. For example, in 2019, when the live-action version of Dumbo came out, the movie failed. Why? Because it's an animated movie with elephants, and the targeted audience for this movie would be the people that grew up with it. That would make those people about 70 years old. Here's a quote from Insider. Disney is capitalizing on the nostalgia of their fan base with more than 20 live-action movies in the works. These fans are attached to the movies they grew up with, so they are often excited to see the classics with a new twist. But unlike the upcoming Aladdin and The Lion King, which were originally released in the 90s, the animated Dumbo was released in 1941. Children who grew up with the story of Dumbo would be more than 78 years old, so there is little to no attachment for young fans now. This may be targeted for the children of today, but it all comes down to how much money it made. This movie was not desired. It only made $353 million with a $170 million budget. That's a failure. Sorry, Disney. People didn't want this one. I also did not see this movie. Disney has become over-reliant on reboots and sequels, and now that they own all these properties like Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel, even ABC and ESPN, they need to be able to keep the company afloat, and sequels are the easiest and fastest way to make money. Disney has many shareholders, and many people rely on Disney. Thousands of people work for Disney, so to an extent, people have to make a living. But when the content being made is heartless, consumers of these films will eventually stop seeing these movies, and Disney will slowly stop making money. In the last 2 to 3 years, Disney has had a quantity over quality problem, and Disney is not the only guilty one here. There's also the Harry Potter franchise, the DC Comics franchise, the Fast and Furious franchise, the list goes on. However, the franchise that's currently dying is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. People loved this franchise. The movies were desired, and it was clear the writers cared about the story. But the franchise took a turn when Phase 3 of the franchise ended. There was a distinct ending, and now Marvel, Disney, needed to somehow come up with a new storyline. When COVID hit, Disney had to turn to Disney Plus to disperse their content, so it led to a downgrade in quality. Disney started making Marvel TV shows, and this became too much to the fans. When there were maybe 2 or 3 movies a year, now it's 2 or 3 TV shows and 2 or 3 movies per year. In 10 years, from 2008 to 2019, Marvel made 22 movies. And in the last 3 years, there have been 18 projects. Just in the last 3 years. No wonder Disney is losing money. There's too much. People don't have all that time and money to see that many movies and TV shows. But not only is it too much, it's not even good storytelling. Here's this review I found on the movie Eternals, which came out in 2021. Said by Basement Brothers Collectibles, "The worst MCU film ever. Go watch Dune instead if you want to support a good film with a diverse cast of characters. This film is pretentious and pandering in the highest degree. It is so focused on a Hollywood pipe dream that they forgot to write an interesting story. It is overloaded with characters who, while they are diverse and inclusive, cannot manage to get the audience to connect with any of their stories on a personal level. In its bloated attempt to represent everyone, it effectively represents nobody. This film is shallow, and the humor is hollow. Its exposition is more tell than show, and will have the average watcher bored to tears." This comment was one of hundreds that can be found on the Google Reviews page. People aren't dumb, and more people will notice just how poor the quality has gotten. Disney has lost its charm, and people are now noticing the plot holes and messiness in many of the intellectual properties they own. What these companies need to learn is that sometimes taking a step back and waiting to come up with new ideas will better the company in the long run. Sometimes things are better left untouched. Now, there's always someone that will like all the content, and everyone has a different opinion, especially when it comes to movies. People will say, "Well, I like seeing more of my favorite character." But the risky problem here is that your favorite character can be ruined just to extend the story. All the character development you loved will just be thrown out the window. In my opinion, I would rather have a full developed and well thought out story and have it end as a trilogy than have 5, 6, 7 movies that completely ruin my favorite character. The best example I can give here is Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. He was a great character in the first 3 films, but once you get to the 5th film, it seems as though his character went 5 steps back and became stupid and mindless. The whole takeaway from this is that people want good quality, and people are willing to wait. These companies will suffer if changes aren't made, because in the process of trying to make more money, they will just end up losing so much more. Sequels will always be made, and there are tons of good sequels, but it's gotten out of hand. It's time to think more about original and creative ideas.